And why is it tactical? Because it's made out of multicam, and anything made out of multicam is automatically tactical. Okay, I'm only kidding. But this is a heavy duty 1000 denier Cordura fabric. It's waterproof, it holds a lot of weight. So this is a good bag, and the reason I'm making this video today is just to show you how to make one of these. My wife has been sending me to the grocery store lately, and the one that she sends me to, it's better if you bring your own bag, so she sends me with these other little totes. So I decided to make something that was a little more cooler, I guess, than this bag with the stacked, I don't know what these are, some kind of dessert. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and show you how I made this, and hopefully this is something that'll be interesting to you. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started.
To start, I'd recommend cutting your 5 pieces of fabric that you need before you start sewing things together. You can make it whatever size you want. I did 18 by 15 by 10. On the screen you can see the sizes that I used. I would recommend drawing your sizes out and writing the numbers down before you get started.
Alright, so all the pieces are cut now. The 2 larger pieces are going to be basically the front and the back of the bag. This piece here is going to be the bottom of the bag, and the 2 smaller pieces that we cut will be the sides of the bag. For handles today, I'm going to be using this 1-inch webbing. As I've mentioned before on some of my other videos, I get all my materials from a website called Rocky Woods, and I'll put the link up down below. I'm not affiliated with them, I just really like them. This webbing, like I said, yeah, it's just 1-inch coyote webbing, and yeah, and we'll go ahead and get started now on sewing this together. In addition to using the 1000 denier fabric, the Cordura fabric, I use a bonded nylon thread to put all this together. And the way I like to sew these together is I like to sew the bags inside out. So basically what that means is that like the bottom and the side or the front of the back of this bag, I'm going to sew it together like this. And then the next piece that I'm going to add on, I'm going to sew this together like that, and when the bag is done, we'll turn it right side out. Before we get started on sewing these bags together, I'm actually going to just very quickly sew a pocket on the inside. So if you want to put your wallet or something inside the bag, so you don't have to carry it while you're shopping, you can do that. You don't have to do this step if you're not used to sewing, but I'm just going to do it real quick to show you if you want to. For any of the edges that will be open after you sew this, there's 2 different things you can do to kind of clean those edges up, because you don't want to leave them just like this. You can either roll the fabric just a 1/4 of an inch and sew this together, and after you sew that together, you know, when it's something like this, it'll go back on here like this. It'll have a round edge. Stuff will go in and out cleaner and easier. So you don't want to leave this flat edge on it. So just make sure that as you're sewing this together, you're paying attention to what edges will be left open as you're sewing it. Another option is to use a material called edging. And again, something you can buy from when you're picking up your fabric. It's just a thin piece of like ribbon almost. And what you do with this is that you simply take your fabric and you basically just sandwich it halfway in between like that. After you sew it, you get a nice clean edge with this.
And if you're using the gross grain edging, you want to prep it before you bring it to your sewing machine. I like to use clamps, but I'm going to use pins for this video. So you can see here, I've already got 2 of them in. And again, you just fold the gross grain in half over the edge of your fabric. You go through one side, and then you bring the needle back up, and you bring it back through the side that you started with. And you just want to run those along all the edges. You want to try to set the pins so that they are easy to pull out while you're sewing, and that'll get you ready to sew it. And here are all the pins ready to go for the side pockets.
All right, like I said, I'm going to start with the edging of the pockets first. Alright, so now I've got the edging on the pocket and the sides. So what I'm going to do now is sew the pocket that I made to the sides, so the edging is up on both of them. We are not going to sew the top, just basically 3 lines, the sides and the bottom, and this will give us our pocket. Alright, two, you want to make sure that if, so for this bag, I want the more colorful side of the Cordura to be on the outside and the duller side to be on the inside. But for my pocket, I want the more colorful side of this fabric to be on the outside of the pocket. So you just want to pay attention to where your fabric is sitting, that's all. All right, on this one, you can see that the pocket is actually a little bit bigger. And the reason I did that is because I wanted this pocket to be for a little bit bulkier items. So I'm just gonna sew the 2 sides together. I'm gonna do like that. That way I give it some room and just kind of bunch up the bottom and sew this together. Just personal preference. If you wanna make it the same size, go ahead and do that. Like I said, this was just to give this one side a little extra room. All right, so we have our 2 pockets on our side pieces now. So now we go ahead and move on to the next step. Now the next part will be, so our front and back pieces, we need to put edging. We need to put the edging on the top. And then once we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and add the handle to the front and back. And I'll go ahead and get started on that.
And just real quick, for the handle itself, I'm going to make a notch with a piece of chalk at the 9-inch mark on the fabric, and then 3 inches to the left of it, and 3 inches to the right of it. And this way I'll have a blue mark with chalk that tell me where to put my handles at.
Alright, so I've got my edging pinned up. I'm going to go ahead and get my edging on and get the handle on. Do it to both sides, and then go ahead and start putting it together.
Okay, I got my edging done, so now I'm going to add the handle. And you can see my blue tick marks. I'm just going to line the 1-inch webbing up on those tick marks. But to make sure that I keep it even, I am going to measure out the webbing. And to do that, I'm going to use the ruler that I keep taped to the back of my sewing machine. So I'm just going to mark 2 inches. When I cut the webbing to make handles, I cut both pieces the same size. So when I get started on the other piece of fabric, I'll do the same thing where I measure out 2 inches and line it up with the tick marks. You can see that I'm going to sew this just below the grosgrain edging, and I'm going to do a rectangle with an X inside the rectangle for my pattern. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright, apologies for the messy shot, but I thought this was important to show. Here is what all the pieces look like when they are ready to go. You can see the bottom, the front and the back, and the two side pieces with their pockets on, and you can see the handles are on. So now we're ready to start sewing them together.
Alright, so this will kind of be maybe the most confusing part of this. When you sew this bag, you're going to sew it inside out. So when you're done with it, you're going to have to reach your hand in and grab the bottom and pull it back up so you can turn the bag right side out. And the reason we're going to do that is to have a cleaner look on the seams when we sew these at the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and start to get this sew together and to show you what this looks like. The thing you want to pay a lot of attention to is, if you're using this type of fabric, is that remember there's a dull side and a more colorful side. So you want to make sure that whichever side that you want to be the outside, that it is going the right way, and that your pieces are, when they're laying on top of each other, that they're both facing each other the right way. Alright, I'm going to start by putting a side on first. I'm going to have, when this is finished, I'm going to make it so that my handle is, that the box threads right here, that they are on the outside. Alright, so you can see our first seam is done as far as putting pieces together. And you can see when I roll this out, when I turn this way, because this will be the outside of the bag, you can see the nicer clean line here for the seam. So that's what you want to go for. I have this little mistake right here where the pocket didn't go all the way to the edge. But I don't mind. I'm okay with that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and continue to put the bag together, and now I'll start with our next side. So again, you just want to make sure your pieces are lined up. When we're done sewing this, right now as it stands, the pockets that we made are going to be on the outside. But again, we're going to turn the bag inside out so it'll fix itself. So now I've got two of the sides on, and now all we need is the front or the back side of the bag and the bottom, and we'll be done. All right, and if you need to kind of visualize what I'm doing here, here's a side piece, the other front or back, and another side piece. All right, before we get too much farther, what we've got going on right now, as you can see, this is a kind of a long piece now. We will go ahead and put this last thread in the side. All right, so now that we've got all the corners sewn together, this is starting to come together, look like a bag. Right now you can see the pockets are on the outside again because we are sewing this inside out. So we're gonna go ahead and add on the bottom, and then we'll turn it right side out, and that'll be the end of this. All right, so we've got our bottom sewn on now. We've got basically a front, a back, two sides sewn on, and we've got our handle sewn on now. Like I said, this is inside out right now, so we're gonna go ahead and reach in and pull the bag right side out. And there you have it. There's our tactical grocery bag. Should work out pretty well at the grocery store. You can see we've got our pockets on the inside. Be good for holding a wallet or whatever items you need to put in there. If you have any questions about how I made this, or you have any questions for what you're making, just leave a comment down below, or you can even email me. That's fine. And I hope this was helpful for you. As always, thanks for watching.